good to see everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight for a conversation that I've really been looking forward to. I hope everyone is keeping well, and I hope that we're not keeping you away from any important. I don't know. I heard there's some sort of
You're not.
sporting
You're not.
event on TV, but don't worry about that. This is going to be better. Thankfully, we're bringing you to Toronto tonight, Tommy. So our crowd isn't as interested as your crowd is. And we're really excited to learn from you and to learn particularly about this new book that you've written. Tommy Schnurmacher is an award winning Canadian author, radio talk show host, journalist, and political commentator. He was the host of the mid morning program, The Tommy Schnurmacher Show, on CJAD 800 in Montreal from 1996 until his retirement in 2017. Born in Budapest, Hungary, and the son of a rabbi, he came to Canada as the child of Holocaust survivors and immigrants who fled Hungary right after the Hungarian Revolution. He joins us tonight to discuss his latest book, Makeup Tips from Auschwitz: How Vanity Saved My Mother's Life. The book is a post Holocaust memoir about how his mother got two world famous Nazis to save her life and the profound impact it had on their mother son relationship. The format of this program tonight, we're going to be with Tommy for about an hour, and it's not an interview. Tommy, you've done this program once before, right? And you're doing your cross Canada tour. And
Yes.
the best way of doing this is, he's a pro, Tommy. He's entertaining, he's insightful, he's smart. I just wanted to let him have center stage. That's the way it should be. And we're just going to hear from Tommy about what inspired him to write this book and why he thinks we should all read it. But before we get into that, he allowed me just for a little bit of banter. Tommy, I want to tell you how great it is to invite you, even virtually, to our synagogue in Toronto. You know, I'm an ex Montrealer, and you hear there's a lot of ex Montrealers on the call tonight who have listened to your voice, who grew up listening to your voice in the radio. That's how we got our news, and that's how we knew what to debate and what was interesting about civic life in Montreal. And I want to thank you for being such a voice of reason and bringing people together for all the years that you were devoted to that with CJAD. I am a personal fan, not just interested in the book tonight. Can you tell me a bit, Tommy, about what motivated you to do this cross Canada tour? What's motivating you to reach out in this way? A lot of people will just put out their books and do a book tour as much as they're allowed, but you've made a concerted effort to reach out to a synagogue. So tell us why.
The reason I did that is I believe that it wasn't easy to write this book. It took a long, long time to write the book. I put a lot of effort into the book. So once it was out there, I wanted to make sure that as many people read it as possible. And I had a beautiful opening and a beautiful launch prior to the pandemic. And then all of a sudden, I noticed that there's a pandemic. So I couldn't go anywhere and people couldn't come out to any audience. So I thought about this paper company called, I don't know if you've heard of it, Domtar, right? Pulp and paper company. And at one point they stopped calling themselves a pulp and paper company, and they said that they were paper solution providers. So I thought that's so intriguing. I'm not really a broadcaster or radio person. I'm a boredom solution provider. People are bored, and I make sure that they're not going to be bored anymore. So I figured there are a lot of people who used to go to synagogue and hang out with each other, and now they can't, and they're all stuck at home, day after day after day. What can I do to lighten their load, to entertain them, to become their boredom solution provider?
All
So a
right.
lot of synagogues reached out to me, and I reached out to synagogues in Ottawa and in in Vancouver. And I have to tell you, I spoke to 3 Toronto school classrooms, but Beth Tikva is my first synagogue in Toronto. I decided to choose the best one.
Yay.
So
Okay, great.
I'll choose the best one.
So, Tommy, tell us a little bit about your life now, but what you've been doing since retiring from talk radio.
I have been busier than ever. I'm on the board of the Foundation for Genocide Education, which wants to make it mandatory for the subject of the Holocaust and genocides to be taught in every high school across North America. I'm also the Quebec regional representative of the Writers Union of Canada, and I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled to say that the book, Makeup Tips from Auschwitz, How Vanity Saved My Mother's Life, was shortlisted for the Whistler International Book Award. So I'm very busy with working with the union and with the foundation and promoting the book. Now, many writers just want to write their book and then they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
I'm a big talker. I
Hmm.
love to talk. I love talking about it. I did an hour and a half presentation on how to promote your book during a pandemic, and they said, "Would you have a PowerPoint?" I said, "No, I don't." I said, "Well, it's for an hour and a half. What are you going to do? Talk for an hour and a half?" I said, "Yeah, that's half of what I used to do. I used to talk for 3 hours a day. An hour and a half will be no problem." I got in trouble for talking when I was in yeshiva, but then I made a living.
Tommy, can I just ask you a bit off topic, just about?
Sure.
I noticed today that there was a firebombing in Montreal. Did you see that of a kosher bakery? Um, are you noticing an increase in anti-Semitism these days in Montreal? Maybe fueled in part by a resurgence of French nationalism?
No, no, it has not. No, absolutely not. It has absolutely nothing to do with French nationalism. As a matter of fact, my father, when he first came to Montreal, he was a rabbi, but believe me, there was precious little call for rabbis who couldn't speak English or French, uh, at the time. So he worked selling stuff door to door. He worked as a peddler, and he said that the French Canadians were the most wonderful people. They say "maudits juifs" or the damn Jews here, but they would do business with him constantly. And the priests in Quebec and the elite would tell their parishioners on Sundays, don't, the Jews are terrible and don't shop at Jewish stores. And what would happen is they'd listen and they'd nod, but on Monday morning they would go to Pascal's and Steinberg's and Reitman's and every Jewish shop in Montreal. So it's
But are
not
you
coming.
noticing a resurgence of
I'm
anti-Semitism right now?
noticing anti-Semitism, but it's not coming from Quebec nationalism.
Where's it
It,
coming from?
I think my guess. I don't know what happened with that particular firebombing. I don't know who did it. Some case, I think it's the far right and as well as radical Islam as radical Islamists as well.
And have you heard from anybody that sometimes there's a reaction in woke culture about Holocaust writing that Jews like to exploit their suffering in the Holocaust for their own selfish motives? Has your book encountered any of that? Have you
No,
encountered
no,
any of that in
no.
writing this book?
No, I've absolutely not encountered it. But one of the things
Okay.
I've learned is whenever anybody tells you, maybe as Jewish people, maybe we better not do that, whatever that may be, because if we do that, they'll hate us. Don't worry about that. They hate us already. We don't have to do it. We just have to be. We just have to exist, and they're annoyed. So don't worry about, oh, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. Doesn't matter what you do, what you don't do, they hate us. It's an old story, Rabbi, as you well know. It's
Yeah.
been going on for 1,000 years. It didn't start yesterday.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you the floor now, Tommy. I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to get a sense of what's going on in Montreal today and how your book has been greeted. And I'm happy to hear that it's been received so well. Congratulations on receiving that award. And just before I hand the stage to Tommy, I'm buying a copy of the book. I'm going to go on Amazon right now. Is that the place to buy it?
Yes, you can buy it on
Okay.
Amazon. You can buy it on Indigo. An excellent suggestion.
All
An
right.
excellent.
I'm
All
going
right.
to
Thank you
fade
so much.
away from the spotlight, Tommy, and give the audience to you.
I'm taking you on the road with me, Rabbi, after this.
Just for plugging the book. Okay.
A pleasure working with you. Now, I have to tell you, I was. This is very, very interesting because it's of the name. One of the first synagogues I spoke at was at the Beth Tikva in Dollard. There's a synagogue called Beth Tikva in Dollard.
Sure.
This was before the book even came out. There was no book. There was no book to sell, but the rabbi invited me, And I was introduced, this guy came on to introduce the rabbi, and the rabbi was going to introduce me. Okay, that's the way it was set up. So the guy comes on, and it's just before Rosh Hashanah, it's just before the high holidays. And he says, "Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Make sure that you buy tickets for the high holiday services, right? We know that it's only 3 days and it seems expensive, but we're here for you 365 days a year." That's the presentation the guy makes. He introduces the rabbi, and the rabbi introduces me. Now, I had an introduction all planned, right? But I changed the introduction for that Beth Tikva. I'm changing it for this Beth Tikva as well. Now, what do I have lined up for you today? I'm going to fill you in on an amazing lady who I knew very well. I should. She was my mother. So this is a toast to her, to Anu, L'chaim.
L'chaim.
I got a head start. That's why you see it, right? It's almost half full already. Anyway, so my mother was, so I'm going to share a number of stories. You're going to hear about how she managed to get two notorious Nazis to save her life. But the memoir has a lot of funny stories. It talks a lot about the impact her experience had on our relationship. And I'm also going to share what it was like as a 6-year-old escaping from Hungary in the middle of the night as an immigrant, coming as a refugee to Montreal. But before I start, and this is the synagogue connection, okay? My father was a rabbi, and he had a little shtibel, and he would sell tickets as well for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The person in charge of selling these tickets, right? The person making the reservation was Mom. And she had 6 big pieces of cardboard blocked off, 6 names across, 5 rows down, 30 on this cardboard, 30 on this one, 30 on this one. And she would write the names of the people: Mrs. Goldstein, Mrs. Schaefer, Mrs. Goldberg, Mrs. Silver. She'd write their names on these pieces of paper. So one day the phone rings, and my mother picks up the phone, and this is what happens. "Hello, I would like to buy a ticket for the Rosh Hashanah service, but I don't want to come for the whole thing. I want to come, you understand, just for the Yizkor. Then how much is a ticket?" So my mother replies, before I answer your question, I want to tell you, I love Hollywood, and I love the movie Cleopatra. You know why? Because I love Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. My favorite scene is when the two of them, so romantic, when the two of them are kissing each other. I love that scene. If I go to the Van Horn Theater and I tell them that I want to see just the romantic kissing scene, how much is the ticket? So that's just to give you a taste of Mom's character. So another story about Mom. Mom and Dad used to live on Clanranald. They had a duplex. They lived downstairs. They had tenants who lived upstairs. And one day the phone rings. Once again, it's the phone, and it's the tenant. And the tenant says, "Mr. Schnurmacher, it's the tenant upstairs. There's no heat. Move to Florida," my mother says, and hangs up the phone. The woman calls back, "Mr. Schnurmacher, I'm serious. There's no heat." "Well, don't walk around naked like a tzatzkele and close the window." It's still not over. The woman calls the police, calls the Montreal police. The Montreal police arrive. They knock on the door. My mother goes to the door. "Yes, Mr. Schnurmacher, we have a complaint." "What's the complaint?" Well, it's from your tenant. She says there's no heat. And what are you, the heat police? Go catch a crook. And my father says, who was that? Mama says, somebody selling chocolate. She didn't want to bother him with it. She could be a tough cookie. Now, where did all this come from? Her being a tough cookie. Where did this come from? It didn't happen from nothing. One day, Mom is walking in a small town in Hungary, outside Debrecen, with her sister, and the two of them are saying they're bored. Nothing is happening of any interest. Well, what happened? This early 1944. Well, a few months later, there's something happening. She and her sister are on board a cattle car hurtling towards Auschwitz. Now, whenever I talk about this subject, now this is a serious part of the presentation, when you tell people that they went by train to Auschwitz, everybody thinks of train. They think of, the Via Trail, like for train from Montreal to Toronto, a nice comfortable seat. They can't picture and imagine the horror of what it was. There were no seats. It was a cattle car. They were crammed in. There was no bathroom. There was no water. There was no food. It was a horrendous nightmare before you even got there. Many people died along the way. Now, my mother arrives. She's very young, and she jumps out of the cattle car, and the Germans are yelling "Juden raus," and she marches toward where she's pushed, and who's standing in front of her, sitting in front of her, actually behind the desk, the first Nazi who will save her life, Dr. Joseph Mengele. And if you go to the left, you're going to the gas chamber. If you're young and you can work, you go to the right. So he's the one who chooses her. She looks young and fit, chooses her to go to the right so that she's going to stay in the camp and be a laborer and not be killed. Now, think of this for a second. Think of where my mother is. She's in Auschwitz. They give her the uniform, and she doesn't like it. She doesn't think it fits properly. It's not right. She's a vain woman. It doesn't fit right. So what does she do? She takes her daily ration of bread and finds someone and exchanges it for needle and thread, and she uses the needle and thread and sews the outfit so it fits the sleeve and the collar, that it fits properly. Her shoes that her father got her for Auschwitz were brand new, but now after this horrible trip, they're scuffed, they're dirty. She doesn't like that either. She exchanges her filthy swill black coffee instead of drinking it. Instead of drinking it, what she does is she uses it to polish her shoes. So now she's looking better. Shiny black shoes, dress fits, and they have the morning roll call. The Nazis would count their Jews every day, early in the morning, to see that they're all there and none of them had escaped. So during the morning roll call, they're telling my mother and other women, you shouldn't draw attention to yourself. You look different. You shouldn't do that. So what happens? Irma Greze, on whom they patterned the character Ilse She-Wolf of the SS, says, you, out of the line. My mother comes out of the line, and the one says, how come a Jew like you is dressed like this in a place like this? So my mother tells her the truth, told her the truth. And as a result, she became her chichkash in Hungarian, or her sort of personal assistant, her valet. She tended her garden, she cleaned her dishes, she polished her bicycle. She did that kind of menial work for her, and that's what saved her life. And the basic messages in that horror, what the Nazis were telling my mother and telling all the Jews, that you're nothing, you mean nobody, you're a number. She has a number tattooed on her arm. You're nothing, you mean nothing, you are a nobody. And my mother was battling back in the only way she could. She says, that's not true. I am somebody. I do matter. I do count. And that's why I want to look good. She wanted to continue to have this self-esteem. Like that was important to her, even in that horror. So they get through that, right? My father survived Mauthausen, mom survived Auschwitz. Then, of course, comes the communists in communist Hungary. And leaving Hungary, we're leaving in the middle of the night. What happened is knock on the door in the middle of the night, and the guy says, you have to pack, you and your husband and your son, you have to pack. Your sister in Montreal sent me. Mama says, how do I know that? And he took out her wedding picture, and he said, okay, so it must be true. We have to leave right now. And I was told that we're going on an adventure. I'm 6 years old, going on an adventure, and I can take only one toy. And I have two toys that I like. I have two favorite toys: a very nice wooden streetcar and a mandolin. The wooden streetcar doesn't do much, but the mandolin, I can play the mandolin. So I bring that with me. Now we're crossing, we get in the car, we drive to a muddy field. We have a guide, a Hungarian guide with us. Now this Hungarian guide, he helped the Russians plant the landmines to kill anybody who's trying to leave. But as a side business, once he had done that, he took money to take people, shepherd people across the border, and he would tell them where the mines were so they wouldn't get killed. And he'd ask you to pay him for this service. So we're 5, 6 families. They've paid him. We're walking along, and I decide, middle of the night, I've got my little mandolin. I'm going to strum a few bars and play the mandolin. Well, this guide takes the said mandolin and away from me, because if I'm continuing to play and making noise, the Russian soldiers who are around us will sort of shoot us all dead with their machine guns, something he wanted to avoid. So he takes the mandolin and smashes it over my head, thus ending my musical career. And guess what else this guy did? Halfway through, he's tired, doesn't want to continue. We can go on our own. Of course, we can't go on our own. We don't know where we're going to go. We don't know which direction. We might land on a landmine. So he wants more money. So everybody gives him more money. And then we go, now we're 3/4 of the way. We can practically see the Austrian border at this point. Guess what? He's gotten tired again. And he said, give us all of your money. Every last penny, every last cent, give it to him. So that's how we arrive in Montreal with no money, don't speak English, don't speak French. And my father wanted to send me right away to yeshiva, and my mother said, no. First, send him to a public school, the Protestant school, so he'll learn English, and in grade 2, you can send him to yeshiva. But first, I want him to learn the language. My father puts up a fight, he loses, she wins, I go to Bancroft School. And there I am on the first day of school. I'm 6 years old, and I don't speak one word of English. I don't speak any English at all, though I've learned how to say hello, but that's all I know, and you can't keep saying that all day. So I arrive at school, and teacher's talking. I have no idea what she's saying. Everybody's listening. I'm listening. They're sitting with their hands folded. I'm sitting with my hands folded. Teacher's saying something. Then everybody picks up a pencil. Okay, and I'll pick up a pencil. And she's talking. Then they're starting to write something. I said, I don't know. I don't know what they're writing. So I figured, what am I going to do? I don't understand what she's saying. So I look right next to me, and there's a girl sitting next to me, and she has her pencil, and she's writing on the top right-hand side of her paper. She's writing M-A-R-I-E. I said, oh, okay, I get it. So I take my pencil, and I write on the top right-hand side, M-A-R-I-E. I had no idea it was her name. I did what, but she did. I also discovered that at the Jewish Public Library, which was a few blocks from where we lived, get this, you could become a member of the Jewish Public Library if you were a child for 5 cents. 5 cents, and you can borrow 3 books at a time. Wow, that's fantastic. I have 5 cents. Wonderful. I'm going to become a member of the library. I go with my nickel. I go upstairs. I'm ready to choose the books. And here's my 5 cents is you need to have a card signed by your parents. Oh, they're not home. I don't want to wait. I just found out this exciting news. I don't want to delay gratification. I want to have my books now. So what did I do? Again, inheriting the chutzpah from my mom. I go downstairs. And I asked adults passing by Mount Royal and St. Urban if they would please forge my mother's signature. Most of them say no. But finally, after I asked a number of people, one lady with a nice ponytail forged Mrs. Schnurmacher. You don't know how long it took me to spell it out. S-C-H. It took a while. She forged it, and I became a member of the library, and I've been a member of the library ever since. One of the teachers at Bancroft School was Miss Wadman. She was the grade 1 teacher, very nice lady. And one day I was crying because I'd forgotten my lunch at home, and she decided to take me out to Beauty's. Remember the Bancroft snack bar? And some of you may remember on St. Urban and Mount Royal. She took me out and she asked me, would you like a hot dog? Hot dog. I'm thinking, no, even in Canada, I mean, it's not actually a dog. They haven't cooked a dog. It can't be like a dog. There's probably some kind of, I don't know, probably some kind of candy. Some kind of candy. Yeah, I'll have it. So she orders the hot dog. It arrives. Oh my God. It's meat. It's not kosher. What am I going to do? I can't upset Miss Wadman. I said, what is that over there? I point to some of the signs up on the wall. While she's looking there, I throw the hot dog on the floor. And she said, oh, you must have been really hungry. Would you like another one? No, I don't want another one. On another occasion, living on Van Horn, a Ukrainian family. We live on the 2nd floor. Ukrainian family on the 3rd floor. I go over there when they're having lunch. And I'd had lunch already, but the kid's having lunch. And he's eating a steak. And he says he's thirsty. Could I have something to drink? So his mother gets up, goes to the fridge, and takes out a bottle of milk. And she's bringing the milk to the table. And she starts pouring him a glass of milk. So I freak out. I knock the glass of milk onto the floor, right? And I rush downstairs crying to tell my mother that the lady upstairs, the mommy upstairs, wants to kill her son. She's trying to poison him. She wants to make him drink milk when he's having a steak. And of course, if you have steak and the milk together, you're going to die. So my mother explains a bit of theology to me that no, this rule does not in fact apply to everybody. Now, I became very protective of, I finally did learn English. I wanted to undo the Holocaust as children want to do, but you can't. So I was very overprotective of her. When something came in English, I'm the one who translated. When somebody called from the government, I'm the one who handled the call. When you're second generation, when you're a child of survivors, you become the parent of the parent. You take care of them. You don't tell them your problems. How could your problems possibly compare to what they went through? So you grow up pretty quickly. Now, they become, being Holocaust survivors, their child is so precious to them, right? They're so worried something might happen. They become very protective, overprotective, very overprotective. So you live in Canada. It's a cold winter day in February. And my mother says that I can't go to school that day. Why can't I go to school? She says, too cold. Too cold? What are you talking about? Everybody else is going to school. Why are the other kids going? She said, because Canadian parents don't love their children. And of course, I believe this to be completely true, right? Okay, they love me more. That's why I get to stay at home. When you have to get a note signed by your parents to do something or not go to school, I said, what was that about? Like, they're making it sound like it's a hardship. Of course she'll sign whatever I want her to sign. I didn't want to take gym on the first day of high school. I told Mom, I said, you write a note that I have heart issues. Make it out to this gym teacher or the other teacher because I don't want to take gym. She says, it's terrible. You have to take gym. I said, Mom, listen carefully. I'm not taking gym. You write out these 2 notes or you're looking at a high school dropout. So she signed that note. She signed that note as well. That was later on in high school. But earlier in elementary school, right? You're living in Canada. Hockey, winter, hockey, skates, right? So my father buys me skates. Terrific. I'm going to go skating in Kent Park. I'm going to learn how to skate. Fine. She tells my father, you want to take him to the park to go skating? I don't mind. It's your responsibility. He will get on the ice and then he will fall and hit his head and break his head, and the skull will crack like a cantaloupe, and the blood will come out from the brain, and the blood, the pink brain and the red blood soaking into the eyes. I'm listening to this. I'm not going skating. I'm not going near the park. To this day, I don't know how to skate. I don't know how to ride a bike. I've never gone bowling. All of these things because of mom's unbelievable overprotection. Uh, One day, I won a scholarship at Northmount High School. The scholarship in those days was $10 gift certificate at Eaton's. So we tell how long ago it was. So my friend Howard Carroll, his mom, is taking us. She's driving us after school to go pick up our books. He also won $10 worth of books at Eaton. So we're going to get the books. We're coming home, pick some books, and we're coming home, and I hear on the radio that on CJD that Tommy Schnurmacher has been missing for 3 days. Mrs. Carroll says, "Where have you been for the last 3 days?" I said, "What do you mean, where have I been? I've been home." "All day?" "No." I said, "During the day I'm at school, and then I go home." "So why are they saying that you've been missing for 3 days?" I said, "I don't know." So we come home. She brings me upstairs, Côte St. Catherine in Victoria, 3rd floor. And my mother opens the door and says, "Oh, thank God he's alive." And Mrs. Carroll says, "What's going on? Why did I hear that he was missing? CJD said he was been missing for 3 days. Did you tell him that? Did you tell him he was missing for 3 days? Why did you tell them that he was missing for 3 days? Do you think if I tell them he's an hour late, they will go look for him?" So that, again, mom's shtick, mom's chutzpah. I was very spoiled as a kid. When I wanted something, this is a story now about my father. When I wanted something, I asked Daddy, "Could I please have some money, $3, $4? I want to buy Beatlemania. I want to buy the Beatle album, right? I want to buy a Beatle album." And I said, he says, "Well, buy it from your allowance." I said, "I spent it already." "Well, buy it next week." "Please, Daddy, please, 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 can I have it?" So he's so kind. He's all Hesed, no Gevura. He gives me the money. I buy the Beatle album. I'm absolutely thrilled. Fast forward a few decades, right? Whenever I'd go out with him when he was elderly, every 5 minutes I'd say to him in Hungarian, "Dedi, okay, Vaj," which means, "Are you okay? Is everything okay? Are you okay?" He'd say yes. Then 5 minutes later, again, "Dedi, okay, Vaj, are you okay? Is everything all right?" Okay. So then in 2004, he passes away, and I'm out a year later on the Yort side. I'm out at the cemetery and saying Tillim and doing what you do at a cemetery when you go out on a Yort side. And I'm looking at the gravestone, and I sort of asked, I said, "Dedi, are you okay?" As I say that, I hear a Beatles song. They're playing Beatlemania in the cemetery in Dollard in Montreal. Not one song, the whole album. Song after song after song after song, one after the other. Like how is that possible? And how is that possible? Well, there's a swimming pool adjacent to the cemetery. They were having it was there in the afternoon. They were having a sort of a beach party. They were playing music. But the song they chose was an unusual one, was from Beatlemania. They didn't choose one. They played the whole album, and they played it the second I asked the question, "Daddy, okay, Raj, Daddy, are you okay?" And it was, I think this is in my head, I felt that it was such a beautiful moment when he gave me that money for the album. The joy that I had from having him give me the money to buy the album I wanted so much. The joy that he had from seeing how happy I was to get that joyous moment, that was his way of saying everything was okay. He like threw a sort of joyous moment at me. That's how I see it. Now, as a kid, I loved New York City. I read about it. I wanted to go to New York City. There used to be a place called Park Plaza, a restaurant in Montreal on Park Avenue and St. Joseph. I thought that was the Plaza Hotel in New York. There was a place on Villeneuve called Florida Apartments, a rooming house. I couldn't understand why all my parents' friends wanted to come here every winter to this little rooming house because I thought that was Florida. So, but I wanted to go to the real New York City. I lobbied. And finally, in 1965, I got my mother to take me on a train to New York City. And we get there and we arrive in New York City, and it's Grand Central Station, noise and clanging and banging and people says, we have to go home. War, it's a war. War has broken out. I said, no war has broken out. There's no war, and we're not going home. It took me forever to get you here. We are staying here. And we're heading towards the hotel. The hotel was, my friend Nathan Heim had recommended it, $10 a night, the National Hotel, 7th Avenue and 42nd Street. Don't look for it, long gone. And we're walking, this is pre-wheels. You couldn't roll the luggage, right? You had to schlep it. So as we're walking along 7th Avenue towards the hotel, Mom sees a store. She sees a store that sells only brassieres. Mom's never seen anything like this. A store that sells only bras. So, Tommy, wait outside here. You guard the luggage. I'm going shopping. She goes inside and comes out about 15, 20 minutes later with a plastic bag. She's got her bra. We get to the hotel. Can't wait. Goes into the bathroom. Changes, puts on her bra. Comes out a few minutes later, very unhappy. Bra doesn't fit. Tommy, would you do me a favor? Take back the bra. It's the wrong size. And even though I'm 14, even though I've never been to New York, I remember where the store is. My mother asked me to do something. I'm going to do it. I said, I don't know if they take back bras. Go try. Anyway, so I get to the store, walk in, and there's this guy right at the front at the cash. Yeah, my mother was here. She's a pretty lady with a Hungarian accent. She brought a bra, and it's the wrong size, and I'd like to return it. We don't take back bras. Is this your store, sir? Yeah, it is my store. I'm the owner. How long has this store been here? This store has been here for 26 years. In the 26 years the store has been here, have you ever had a 14-year-old kid come in and try to exchange his mother's bra? And he laughed. He said, okay, kid. And he gave me the money. Now, most of you, if you've taken your children to New York, you probably think it's very important to make sure they have something to do, right? Keep the kids busy. That's not how Mom felt. She went to New York for one reason. She knew that on 34th Street, there were dress shops that had a sign in the window that said, all dresses $5. And she wanted to win. She wanted to go in every single one of these stores and try on every dress that was a size 10, which is bad because she was a 14. So, but I had to lie to her what the sizes were constantly. Oh, it's an 8, right? Because I wanted to get out of there already. Anyway, so you know what the deal was? For every 7 dress shops or department stores that I went to, I could go to one museum. I wanted to go to the museum. So 7 to 1. I was a kid. I didn't know this was a bad deal. I took it. We go to the Natural Museum of History. She takes a picture of me next to a cigar store Indian. That's it. Enough. No more. Years later, I would take her to Century 21, and we saw a dress. That was like a designer dress that was $2,000, marked down to $1,000, marked down to $500, marked down to $80, marked down to $19.95. I said, Anu, it's a $2,000 dress for $19.95. Why don't you buy it? Try it. She doesn't want to go into the changing room. Okay, so step into it here. So I kneel down, said, step in, put one foot in. And then she puts in one foot in, and the other foot's not in. And then, okay, then I move over to that. So, okay, put the other foot in. She puts the other foot in, but now the first foot has come out, right? This is going on, and I just collapse onto the floor, like I fall onto the floor, breaking out in just laughter at the absurdity of this entire scene. But and on another occasion, I went to Atlanta, and I went to see the Holocaust Museum. And Mom had always told me that this woman, Greza, who'd saved her life, looked like Ingrid Bergman. So I'm looking at the pictures in in the Holocaust Museum, the small one in Atlanta, and I notice in those brown, sepia pictures, brown and beige, somebody who looks like Ingrid Bergman. So I look a little closer, and it says Irma Greza. I said, "Wow, that's the woman. That's the woman who saved my mother's life." Wow. So I call her on the phone. I said, "Anu, guess what? I'm in Atlanta. I just saw a picture. I just saw a picture of Greza." "That's nice. You're in Atlanta. Did you go to CNN and the Coca-Cola Museum?" She had gone past that. She'd moved on. Now, when I went to the Oscars, the Academy Awards, I took my mother as my date to the Academy Awards, to the Oscars. I covered the Oscars 14 years in a row. So we get there, and I have my press pass, and my friend Denny, who works for Associated Press, she says, "Tommy, you know what? I'm only covering the arrivals. There's another reporter covering the main event. As soon as I'm done my work, I'll give you my pass and give it to your mom." Perfect. So I'm wearing my pass, right? That says Tommy Schnurmacher. She's wearing her press pass. That says, Denny Arar. Everything's fine until Denny comes back and says that the reporter who was supposed to cover the main event called in sick, and Denny has to cover it, and she needs her press pass back. Well, it's her press pass, right? What am I going to do? So I give her back the press pass, and now what we're doing is I wear it, then I take it off, and I put it around her neck, then I take it off there, and I put it around my neck, sort of like back and forth until a tall 6'4" LA cop comes over and says, "Okay, which one of you two is Tommy Schnurmacher?" "Oh, officer, I'm so sorry. He is Tommy Schnurmacher. He has the press pass. I don't. But don't worry. I will walk home alone by myself in the dangerous street of Los Angeles by myself." And he is, of course, completely charmed, puts his arm around her, takes us over to where we get the best possible seats. We go inside, and when we're meeting the people who've won the awards, they take them to the TV room, the radio room, then the print room, and Robert Redford has won for Best Director and Best Picture at that time for Ordinary People. And we're in a very sophisticated press room with journalists from all over North America and all over the world, actually. But Robert Redford is such a powerhouse and such a big star that everybody's like sort of embarrassed to be the one to ask the first question. Nobody wants to be the one to ask the first question. So who raises their hand? A Hungarian lady, my mom. "Excuse me, Mr. Redford." I almost called the book, "Excuse me, Mr. Redford." "Excuse me, Mr. Redford. Now that you have won the Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director, are you going to run for president?" Of course, he loved the question. They all loved the question. And that was Mom with Robert Redford. Now, I also went to the Cannes Film Festival on the French Riviera. And once again, my date was my mom. And we went to the casino, and I said, "Anu, at home when we play blackjack with you and me and Daddy and you cheat, that's very cute and it's very funny. But over here, if you do that here in this French municipal casino, the French police take you to the French jail. So you don't want to do that." And Mom was very good, and she behaved very, very well. Now, I also took her out to this great restaurant called the Moulin de Mougins. And she couldn't understand why I wanted to take her out to a restaurant that you had to take a cab to go to. Right? It's so far. And I said, "Anu, this is a very special restaurant. It's a big treat." So we get there, and who does she see? She sees Omar Sharif at the other side of the restaurant. I said, "Anu, you can't go over there. You can't bother people, these celebrities. They come to restaurants like this. They want to be in private. They don't want to be bothered by fans." I'm, of course, talking to myself. She's already stood up, and she's walking towards there. I am so humiliated. I'm so embarrassed. I can't even look. I can't even look in that direction. And I said, "What are they going to do? They're going to throw her out. This is so embarrassing." Anyway, I slowly glance towards where they're at. Omar Sharif is getting up. What's he going to do? He goes to another table, takes a chair from the other table, brings it over to his table so that mom could have a seat. The next thing I know, mom is holding Omar Sharif's hand like this and doing this. She is reading his palm. And you know what's so interesting about this? She doesn't read palms. She doesn't know how to read a palm. This is all fiction. She's just making it up. She's making up the entire story. He, of course, is completely charmed by it. Now, another very quick story. Where's a quick story? I don't know how many, by a show of hands, how many people know how to play blackjack? Should I tell the Montreal Casino blackjack story? People know black. Oh yeah, there's enough. Good. Oh good. Okay. So mom and I. Oh fantastic. You'll love this one. So mom and I take mom to the casino, and mom has a fantastic system. She has never, ever, ever in her entire life never lost a penny at the casino. What is her secret? Her secret is a simple one. She plays at the slot machine or plays at blackjack, and if she wins, she keeps the money. And if she loses, I give her the money she's lost because I can't stand to see her upset and crying. So it's a no-lose situation for her, right? No problem. It's like Bombardier, right? If they make a profit, Bombardier keeps it. If they don't, the Canadian government picks up the tab. But it's different when it's the taxpayer doing it. Then it's okay for me to do it for my mom. It's sad when we have to bail out Bombardier. Anyway, so we're at the Montreal Casino. 7 people around the table. I'm number 6. Mom's at the end, the last table just before the dealer. People putting on like $20, $50, $100, $150. A lot of money on the table. Comes my hand. I don't know, 18, 19. Then mom, she got a 10 and a 7. Says, I want another card. What? What do you mean you want another card? You already have a 17. No one draws a card on a 17. I want another card. The dealer hands her the next card. It's a 4. She has 21. But wait. Now, what's the next card going to be? The dealer has a 10. What's the next card going to be? He gets another 10. So he has 20. Mom's beaten him. But now, because of mom, because she took that 4, he would have gotten 10 and 4, 14, and 10 he would have gone over. So the entire table would have won. But because of what mom did, she took that 4 away. He got 20. She made everybody else at the table lose, but she still got her 21. I said, Mom, we have to get out of here safely while we're in one piece. So that's what I inherited from her, the chutzpah, the gutsiness, the chutzpah. That's why I managed to go see John Lennon and Yoko Ono at the bed-in and babysat for their kid, Kyoko, for a week. I don't know if we have time for that because I want to get to some of your questions first. But it was gutsiness and chutzpah that helped. Like, because if you're a child of Holocaust survivors, there are 2 things that are going to happen to you. You're going to catastrophize. You're going to take a bad situation and think of the worst possible outcome. Somebody's half an hour late, they've been killed in a terrorist attack. Not that they were delayed talking to somebody. But on the other hand, you're resourceful as well. Like, I remember when COVID hit, we were going to Venice. I had a beautiful Airbnb in Venice overlooking the Grand Canal. It was spectacular. And a friend of mine from upstairs tells us that, there's a lot of COVID now in Italy, and it's in Veneto. I said, well, okay, who cares? It's in Veneto. It's not Venice. My friend says, what are you talking about? Venice is Veneto. So I had to cancel it, right? And like, I'm looking at the screen with the beautiful antique-filled, gorgeous villa that I was going to rent on the Grand Canal, and I have to cancel it. So I have to take this hand and push the button to cancel it. And I want to go somewhere. So if not Venice, let's go to New York. So we go to New York, and then we see there's more and more cases. They're saying no one has it in New York. A small outbreak in New York, but nobody has it in New York. And I call a friend of mine and I'd say, you know what? the world is about to change, and in a week to 2 weeks from now, the world is never going to be the same again. It's going to look completely different. Oh, what are you talking about? You're crazy. It's nowhere. It's not here. I said, I'm telling you, stock up on tuna. I said, I just ran out of the tuna I put away for Y2K. Like stock up on tuna. And they're saying, don't worry about it. It's not happening in New York. And I think to myself, not happening in New York. New York is the site of the Kennedy Airport. It takes 20 minutes to drive past the airport. You're still driving and you're still at the airport. You're driving for 20 minutes. The airport's still there, right? You're still driving. Is it possible that with all of those thousands and thousands of planes arriving every day, not one person, not one passenger on those planes has COVID? No. So got worried and decided to come home. So that brings me to the end of the formal presentation. If you want, we can do one of two things, or both. I can do a short reading from one of the chapters of the book and then take questions, or go directly to the questions. Rabbi, I leave it to you.
I would like to hear just a short reading from the book, Tommy, to give people a bit of a taste of what the book is about. And then if everybody else online if anyone has a question for Tommy, please use the chat function and we'll be able to get your questions to Tommy that way.
Excellent idea. A very wise rabbi. Okay, this part of the book, this called, I don't call them chapters in the book, I call them pieces. And this is piece number 6. It's called The Last of the Hungarians. After Mom had a regular checkup, her doctor suggested I might want to take her to the geriatric clinic for some tests. Why on earth would I want to take her to some geriatric clinic? She's not that old. She's certainly not geriatric. The doctor looked at me the way B. Arthur used to look at Betty White. I figured you were around 60, and since she's your mother, I jumped to the radical conclusion she's probably a bit older than you are. Everyone's a comedian. We left his office, but I did, however, decide to take Mom to that clinic. Not right away, you understand, about a year later. And after having her pulse checked and her blood pressure measured, Mom was required to answer some questions. Do you know who is the Prime Minister of Canada? Yes, I do. Well, yeah, okay. Well, who is he? Stephen Harper. You're a doctor and you don't know who is the Prime Minister of Canada? Maybe you're not a good doctor. I do know. I'm asking you these questions to see how good your memory is. My memory is excellent. I still remember going to Auschwitz where they shaved off my hair and gave me a tattoo. What do you remember? This was not going well. I figured I'd better do something to distract Mom. Maybe after this appointment, Mom, we can go shopping. Do you want to go shopping? Yes, but first we have to finish with this doctor who has a bad memory. Just a few more minutes and we're done, madam. Here's a piece of paper and a pencil. Just write down a full sentence, any sentence that you like. Take your time. Mom took the pencil, paused, looked at me, and wrote something on the paper and handed it to the doctor. Your mother had no problem writing a sentence. What did she write? I love my son. After the appointment, the doctor told me my mother was fine, but she just had a mild case of dementia. Nothing to worry about. What a quack. How could this man have even mentioned my mother and the D word in the same sentence? Before I hired her live-in caregiver, there are quite a few I'd hired on a part-time basis, some more successful than others. Mom told one bossy caregiver she really didn't like that she should find other employment. I am sure they would pay you big money to work in that circus and you get to travel. Why be stuck in Montreal with me? Most of the help I hired, they were from the Philippines. One morning, however, I bumped into a kind, smiling gentleman who'd been good friends with my dad, and he ran an agency that provided caregivers on a part-time basis, and he told me about Iboya, who had just arrived from the Hungarian countryside. She spoke very little English, but she was strong, not too old, and apparently a great cook. She was ready to show up the very next day, which was a Saturday. I didn't even have a chance to interview her. She arrived at the building just as I was leaving for shul. I introduced myself and told her I was sure she and my mother would get along very well. That morning, my prayers were more intense than usual, as I repeatedly asked the Master of the Universe to intervene to make sure that everything worked out well with Mom and Iboya. My prayers went unanswered. I arrived home to see Mom sitting on the lobby couch, scowling at Iboya with a look that bordered on loathing. Good Shabbos on you. How are you? Borzosto. I will feel much better when this kurva goes home. Tell her to go home. She said all this while glaring at Iboya, who looked like she was no longer surprised at being called a kurva. I make your mother a nice lunch and she love it, said Iboya. I didn't love it. I did not have lunch. Look at her. Look at those sagging breasts, so big. If she leans over, they fall into the soup. Who has breasts so big? She looks like a cow from Pasto. Tell her to go home. Iboya, would you like to take a break? Yes, sure. She left, and Mom thanked me for getting rid of her. I hope she never comes back. She has to come back. Somebody has to take care of you tonight. They do? Yes, they do. You'll be safe, and I'll be less nervous. Let me take you upstairs. You can have a nap, and Iboya will be back later. I'm exhausted. I want to rest. See you tomorrow. I was contentedly dreaming when suddenly awakened by a frantic banging on the door. It was Mom. 3 hours and the kurva still not back. Iboya didn't come back? No. She was supposed to come back. I was told she was very reliable. I hope she's all right. I'm going to call the agency later tonight to find out what happened. Maybe she had an accident. She's too fat to have an accident. Later, I did catch up with Iboya. Why didn't you come back from your break? I did come back. Your mother say I'm fired. I try to open door. She starts screaming. She throw my purse in hallway. She slammed the door. She say if I knock again, she call RCMP and tell them I am spy. I was aghast. I told her, and this is, I was appalled, didn't know what to say. I told her it's your son who hired me. She told me, then go to his house and take care of him. Iboya was the last of the Hungarians.
Tommy, I wish you could hear the laughter coming from, I don't know about everybody else, but certainly in the room where I am, I've been rolling throughout this interview.
Before I go, I want to show you somebody. I saw one of the questions there.
Yes, someone said your mother was beautiful.
Beautiful Mom was, and I want to deal with that. I have to tell you, though, before we get there, as an audience, I've spoken to a number of places across Canada and the U.S. As an audience, you were all absolutely fantastic. I like having all of the screens, like as much as possible, so I can see as many faces as possible. And your reaction to all of it, from all of you, from Susan, Arlene, and Ruth, and Ellen, it was wonderful. I feel like I was with you when you were doing it. Now, my mom had this thing for Elizabeth Taylor. She looked very much like Elizabeth Taylor. And I'm going to show you something. See those picture there? You can see that pretty clearly. See? The grayish picture, the one from the newspaper clipping, that's Elizabeth Taylor. The other lady is Mom.
Wow.
Wait, so there's a resemblance, but wait till I show you this next picture. Now, you see this picture on top? See, there once again, there's wearing fur. There's Elizabeth Taylor in white and Mom in black. See it?
Wow.
But you know what happened when I found this picture? The picture of Elizabeth Taylor is a newspaper clipping. Underneath, there's something else. What's underneath? That's Mom and me at a store in New York. What did she do with me? She covered me up with a newspaper clipping of Elizabeth Taylor to add to her collection. So she was vain, but she was beautiful, and she was like a survivor and with a lot of guts and a lot of chutzpah. So what other questions?
Tommy, I have a question for you. You mentioned giving this presentation to schools. How do you, first of all, why speak to schools? What's your message to schools? And you certainly, I hope you're not sharing with schools. I don't know which grade you're talking about.
No. The Iboya, the story about Iboya was not the one
Right.
mentioned in the schools. Okay, rest assured, Rabbi, it's a very different kind of presentation. It's often about bullying, fighting bullying, how to stand up for yourself, even in a tough situation. That kind of very different message. Though I tell the funny stories about not being able to speak English and the hot dog story and that kind of story. It's very, believe me, Rabbi, very very age appropriate.
So it's about,
And
so you've
don't
turned
forget the
this
black.
talk into an anti-bullying lecture?
Yes, yeah. Well, no, it's not I don't turn it into anti-bullying lecture. I'm saying that she was bullied and she decided to stand up for herself in as much as she could,
Ah,
and the importance of having pride in yourself and not accepting the words of people who are attacking you and being true to yourself, even in the face of bullying. Not bad, eh? I could have been a rabbi, right? The way I twisted that one, right?
yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, I would have the emphasis on, how she didn't become, even with all the trauma that both you and she had been through, did not become an angry person or a bitter person.
No.
I think that's a remarkable aspect of the story, that your mother retained her appreciation and joy of life and stayed the same person that she always was. And I
Right.
can imagine how she did that. That requires incredible strength.
Yes, I think she had that strength and resourcefulness. And a cousin got in touch with me, like a distant cousin, who said she remembered my mother. And I said, "What did you remember about her?" She said, "Well, she was always very elegant. She was like a movie star to me. She seemed always vivacious and dressed well and full of funny stories. And I always felt that she liked me. So, she had like that charming personality. And I think that's what got her through it. She had a great joie de vivre and a love of life. Somebody asked if she was religious, was she still religious? Uh, she would say things like when they call her Rebbitzin, she says, "I am not a Rebbitzin. I am the wife of the rabbi. I know what is a Rebbitzin." She said, from the old country. So she didn't want to fancy herself to give her this title. Oh, I have to tell you the story. The synagogue. I didn't get to tell the synagogue story, and this story at Shul. You know what Schnoder is? Do they have it in your Shul when people go up to the and Aliyah, and I'm going to denote $50 to the Shul or $100 to the
Yes,
rabbi? Do they have that? Okay.
we don't do it, but I think everybody knows what you're talking about. The
Okay. So
auctioning
they
off
don't.
of
Okay.
Aliyahs.
Okay. Good. Okay. So they had this at my father's Shul on Rosh Hashanah. Okay. And and my mother was sitting in the first row, first seat, and she'd often tell me I'd be the usher. So I'd sit somebody. I said, "Mrs. Goldstein says she's in the third row, third seat, and there's somebody in her row, somebody in her seat. Put her in the fourth row, the third seat." She knew who would come when, so she'd sometimes triple sell the seat, right? To say the seat figure this one never shows up, but if she shows up, I'll put her over there for a few minutes. But anyway, one day she's sitting there during this when they're doing the auctioning off of the aliyahs, and this Hungarian woman in front of her says, "When will they be finished with this business?" So mother hears this, and I've just heard that she's heard that, and I said, "Oh, goodness gracious, this is not going to end well." And the woman said, "When will they be finished with this business?" So my mother like leans in there. She says, "This is not a business. The store on St. Lawrence where you bought those handcuffs, that's a business." She says, pointing to her jewelry, her bracelet. Oh, wait, she said it in Hungarian. Maga vette azt a bilincset, az egy business. The word for handcuff in Hungarian, bilinch, you could practically see it. So that was her response to that. Now, the other story is a great story.
Wow.
Where's your executive director, Doris Alvarez.
Doris, are you
Right.
there?
Yes, there she was. She's telling me when we started this that she's in Senegal. Ah, and I said, Senegal. That reminds me of like a whole bunch of stories in Senegal. First, before we got to Senegal, we went to Valmorin, rented a country house in Valmorin. What do you do when you get to the country house? Right, you go. First thing mom does, she cleans the entire house. She cleans up under the linoleum, picks up the linoleum, rolls it up, and cleans underneath. On Clark Street, she used to clean the front door, the doorway, the front of the balcony, the stairs leading to the balcony, then the street to the. I said, are you going to Bouillon? How many blocks east are you going to clean? The city does this. You don't have to do this. That's step one. When we come home in the evening after having gone out during the day, what is the first thing you do when your dad was still in the city? Of course, I hadn't earned a living, and I'm with mom up in the country, and it's at nighttime. So what do you do when you come home? You look for killers under the bed. Before you settle in for the evening, mom has to look under each bed to look for murderers, and if there aren't any, then we can stay. Now, this is the same mom who is bored in bored in Valmorin, and wants to go to Senegal. But of course, we don't drive. No one in the family drives. We don't have a car. How are we going to get from Valmorin to Senegal? Too far. Hitchhike. Mom, who's looking for murderers under the bed, is hitchhiking along the highway from Valmorin to Senegal. What is mom wearing? It's the summertime. She's wearing shorts. In Senegal in the 60s, that was illegal. She was arrested for wearing shorts. Fine in Senegal. So that tells you the fishing, the hitchhiking. Oh yes, I went to a place called Gombush Camp. This was a local Hungarian family that had a tiny little camp in Senegal with a wooden bowling alley and a few things. And I absolutely couldn't stand it. I hated being there. I hated being away from my parents. I wanted to go home. How are you going to get home? Hitchhiking from Valmorin, Senegal, bad. I'm a little kid. I'm not going to hitchhike on my own, despite the lesson I might have learned from mom. Somebody looked at 53 Clark. Is that insane? We lived at 4896 Clark. That's crazy. Anyway, where was I? What was I talking about?
You went to a Hungarian camp.
I don't like this camp. I can't stand it. So what I do is I walk from where the camp is to the highway, right now, and I go to the gas station, and then I look for friendly Jewish people, right? Then when I see friendly Jewish people, that one other quality as well, a certain amount of naivete. As I see them, the ladies coming out, guys got them gas, the ladies come out buying something, and then my turn to turn on the waterworks. My parents left, they forgot me. They drove off and they forgot me. Where do you live? Clark Street, 4896 Clark Street near St. Joseph. Could you give me a lift? Of course, they're going to give me a lift. I get in the back of the car and they drive me from Valmorin back home to Montreal. What are you doing here? How'd you? And first of all, I don't wait. They've driven off, right? They've driven off. And then I come, how did you get it? So I tell them, so you can't do that. You mustn't do that. That's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't want to go back. They insist. They want me to grow up. They want me to mature. And they take me back. My father has to pay somebody to drive me back to the camp once again. And this worked like a charm. I know exactly how to get home from Valmorin to Montreal. Pulled the same stunt again, and then they gave up. Then they figured the message was pretty clear. Doesn't like going to camp. And I never went to camp again, except to visit Lillian when she was at camp. many, many years later. Lillian, a friend of mine. By the way, Lillian Schaefer from Montreal is a good friend of mine. I've known her for years and years. She is actually my inspiration to write, and because I wanted to be a child psychiatrist, and given my background, you can see why. Um, and then Lillian was very upset. We were in Northmount High School in English class, and she was very upset we wouldn't do well in English in Macbeth. So she asked me to come over to her house on Dilla Peltry to study with her, to study Macbeth. I said, okay. So I went over, and then she started reading some of it, and I started reading some of it. Lillian read it so badly. It was just so utterly appalling, right? It was hilarious. So we're just laughing and having a good time instead of studying. But I wrote a satire of Macbeth based on some of what she'd said and what she'd done. And I published it in the Northmount page in the Northmount newspaper. And the reaction was phenomenal. And all of a sudden I said, you know what? Never mind. The kids will have to fend for themselves. I'm not going to be a child psychiatrist. I'm going to be a writer. So that was part of the inspiration for that.
Tommy, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. I not only learned a tremendous amount, but I think everybody here was entertained. You're an amazing, amazing raconteur. But I hope people understand that beneath all of these stories is a real powerful human message about strength and survival through adversity. And I think when you speak, Tommy, you don't only get a sense of how much you loved your mother, but also how much you appreciated what she had been through, how much you honor her through this book and speak about her with tremendous admiration. This is an entire generation that unfortunately we're losing, but we don't have to lose all of the lessons and all of the values that that generation represented. It gives us certainly perspective about the things that we complain about today, and all of the challenges that she went through and overcame, and was still able to maintain a positive disposition towards life.
That's very true. And during the entire pandemic, whenever I would complain or other people would complain, I said, excuse me, we can order food, the food arrives, there's plenty of food, there's Netflix, right? And if you're bored of Netflix, there's Amazon Prime where you can shop for whatever you want. Do not compare this to anything. This is a picnic royale compared to the unspeakable horrors that we can only dream of. And thank God. And even though I've seen 1,000 Holocaust movies and read the books and everything, none of us here can understand what it really was. It's one thing to read about it or hear about it. It's another thing for it to be your real life, your daily experience, not a film or a book that you can close or a film that you can click off. So it's amazing what they went through, and it's a great tribute to them. And I didn't want all these stories to be lost. And Gord Sinclair was the son of the famous broadcaster in Toronto. I used to tell him some of these stories during the commercial breaks on CJD, and he said, one of these days, Tommy, you're going to have to write a book about this. So I decided that he's right, and one of these days I'm going to write the book.
For those who were watching the hockey game, maybe you have some friends who were not available at this hour to watch the interview. Just like to remind everybody that the interview was recorded and will be posted a little bit later, probably tomorrow, so that you can review it on YouTube. A big thank you again to Tommy Schnurmacher. The book is Makeup Tips from Auschwitz, How Vanity Saved My Mother's Life, available at Amazon, Chapters, and other famous bookstores from coast to coast.
Thank you.
A round of applause for Tommy. Thank you
so much. Thank you all. Mwah.